we're going to go over how to write a claim evidence reasoning, or CER. So this is the claim evidence reasoning form specifically for the Bubble Lab, but they all have this general setup. You have your guiding question, your claim, your evidence, and your reasoning. So we're going to fill in each of these sections. I'm going to use the Bubble Lab from Honors Chem as our example, but it should be the same basic setup for each lab. So our guiding question for the Bubble Lab was, I'm going to copy and paste it. Does the addition of glycerin to a soap solution produce larger bubbles? Okay, so I'm just going to get that right from the lab and paste it here. Okay, and that's because we were all answering the same question, so I can just use that question from the lab. All right, my claim is going to be the answer to the guiding question. So if I look in the next slide, it says claim, answer the guiding question in a complete sentence. So let's answer the question. I'm just going to basically take this guiding question and reword it so that it's not a question, it's a statement. So I'm going to say the addition of glycerin to a soap solution produces larger bubbles, period. Okay, so as long as it is a complete sentence and it directly answers the guiding question, then you are good to go. For the evidence, this is where I need to insert either a chart, a graph, or a diagram. So a chart would be, if I'm recording data, I would want to include that chart here. If it's a long lab and there's a lot of charts, then I would only want to choose the most important charts to support my claim. Okay, so for this lab, I need to show the different sizes of the bubbles that we made using our soap solutions. So I have those over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a screenshot of those bubbles, and of the chart. I could put a picture of the bubbles, that would be a diagram, and I'm going to insert that chart right here. So let's go to insert. Now that I have my screenshot, upload from computer, and I'm going to upload the bubble data chart. And I'm going to insert that here. There it is. It looks beautiful, and I just need to move it a little bit and resize so that it fits into my nice little thing there. Okay, and then I want to get rid of this. I don't need that now that I have my chart in there. So this is a beautiful chart. We can read the chart and see that solution A had an average diameter of 23.23. Solution B had an average diameter of 27.21. So it's very easy to see from this data that solution B has the larger diameter. Now, why do I have this down here? You have to write a couple sentences summarizing the chart. So you want it in chart view so it's easy to see, but you also want to describe your data. So we're going to say what I just said. Solution A had an average, actually I should say, solution A produced bubbles with an average diameter of 23.23 centimeters, while solution B produced bubbles with an average diameter of 27.21 centimeters. And then I also need to say that solution B contained glycerin, while solution A did not. Okay, now there are a lot of ways to word this, and I doubt that my sentences are the best sentences. In fact, let's fix this. Average. But as long as you're summarizing the data, then you should be good. Okay, now to get fancy, we can also insert a graph that would make this easy to see. So if I want to go over to my data over here, you guys will see this is the data. It's slightly different because this is a different period, but I can use the data. So I have copied and pasted the most important parts, and the best way to represent this lab is with a bar graph. A lot of times in AP Chem, the best way to represent the data is with a scatter plot. So you're going to highlight the data, and you're going to go over here to the little chart, click on the chart, and look, it automatically selected a pie graph. We rarely use a pie graph. So I'm going to change the chart type to this bar graph right here, and that's what I already had. Can get rid of the old one and select the new one. So I have my two solutions. This makes it very easy to see that solution B was bigger than solution A. This is a very poor graph, and I would not recommend putting this into your CER before we edit it. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to customize this. Okay, so I want to, first of all, it needs to be titled, as do the axes. So the chart title, this is going to be bubble diameter with and without glycerin. Okay, so this is bubble diameter with, I should say, without, just so it's in the same order. Without and with glycerin. Okay, so this is my without and this is my with. I want to change the horizontal axis title. So that's going to be, actually, since this is labeled solution A and solution B, we don't really need that. We can add a key if we want to add a key that says solution A is without and solution B is with, and we'll do that in a second. Let's do the vertical axes, and we're going to label it bubble diameter. In parentheses, what are the units? They are centimeters. Keep leaving the E out there. Okay, so bubble diameter in centimeters is what we were measuring on the y-axis. Okay, so that is looking a lot better. I think to further distinguish between the two, we can change the colors of these bars. Close this, and that would be under legend. Let's see. Position, auto. No. I wonder if I double click on this, if it will give me the color option, and I'm going to change it to red. There we go. That's better. Okay, so I just double clicked on the bar, and you can do the same thing with a trend line. If you double click on it, you can change the color of a trend line. So if you have multiple lines on one graph, it's best to make them each their own color. Okay, and this looks pretty good. So let's see if I can copy, Control C, and I'm going to try pasting it into my CER and just see what happens. Okay, so I've hit Control C, and now I did Control V, so I'm going to paste the chart into here, and there it is. It looks beautiful. Okay, so I just need it to be much smaller. This one is going to have to be smaller to make room. And I'm going to put that right in there. Adjust the size a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, and now it's hard to see as is, but If I hit present over here, it's going to enlarge this. And look at that. It looks beautiful. I can read it perfectly. Solution A, solution B. I have my summary underneath. And the last thing we have to do is our reasoning. So the reasoning for this lab is the glycerin is a polar molecule. Okay, so they were told to look up the structure of glycerin. They won't know what polar is yet, but you guys do. So the glycerin is a polar molecule. It is hygroscopic, so that's kind of like hydrophilic, which means it attracts water, period. Adding the glycerin to the soap solution allows for a larger diameter bubble because as the water evaporates, it causes the bubble to pop. The glycerin keeps the water in the bubble longer and therefore produces bubbles with a larger diameter. So we tied in the evidence to our claim of it producing a larger diameter. We know why it produces a larger diameter because the glycerin holds the water molecules into the bubble. And so because the water is not evaporating as quickly, the bubble doesn't pop as quickly, so you're able to get a larger bubble. I'm going to make this larger font here so we can read it and it's nice and pretty. And that looks like the most beautiful claim evidence reasoning that ever was. Just kidding. Okay, you guys can follow these directions and have a beautiful claim evidence reasoning also, as long as you are meeting these descriptions of the claim answering the question, the evidence. You have to give a chart, a graph, or a diagram, and a quick sentence or two about the data. And the reasoning, which is the most important part, that is the why behind the lab. So as long as you meet those three things, then you will do well on your claim evidence reasoning. All right. See you guys later.